Hi friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be making some art with two beautiful Noodler's inks, so stay tuned. Blue Upon the Plains of Abraham, Canadian exclusive, bulletproof, eternal, possibly my favorite blue ink at the moment. And a Bashi Sunset. Now this one completely blew my mind away and you will get to see why in a bit. It's gorgeous, gorgeous ink. And now I wanted to show you some chromatography, and basically what you do here is you take coffee filter paper and you put a drop of ink and then you submerge it on water up until around there, and then the water is gonna climb up the paper, and because different pigments have different densities, the colors are going to separate, so you get a better idea of the composition. In this case there is some gray, pink, and then a couple of shades of blue. And same thing with Bashi Sunset. Now unfortunately it doesn't show on camera, but Bashi Sunset has a slight tint of pink around there, and then it goes all the way from an orange yellow up to an orange red, and this is something I've never seen before. Now onto the drawing here. Basically what I did was I spent some time looking at images from the Grand Canyon and the desert, and then I just went ahead and I did some line work by imagination, just by memory. And I inked up, this is a Noodler's Conrad Flex fountain pen. And this pen takes some to get used to, but personally I love it. Basically because of the line variation that you can do with this pen. Fountain pens overall, they require a little bit of care, maintenance, but I think it's worth it. They're very handy tools to have when you like to draw. And there goes my first mistake. Well, kinda. I wanted to have a blue sun just because I wanted this drawing to be surreal in a way, but I didn't let it dry long enough. I thought that because this was watercolor paper, which tends to be really dry, it's gonna be okay. So I went ahead and I started doing the background in the sky, and as you can see, the sun exploded. Now at that point I was a little frustrated, but later on I kind of liked it, so I didn't fix it or anything. And you're going to see as I start to build up the Bashi Sunset, you're going to start to see it, how it darkens, how it goes all the way to red. And you will see me painting all over the place here, and that is because I decided to take a more intuitive approach. And I tend to do that a lot because it's very soothing for me not to stressed out over what I am going to over my final result. It's like I don't have anything specific in mind, so basically this painting is just doing itself while my mind is wandering away. So if this whole thing looks messy to you, maybe that is because it is. My only the only thing that I was actually paying attention to more closely was mixing up the two colors and see what I was able to come up with in terms of colors. And I can tell you right off the bat, I was blown away. All kinds of greens, oranges, browns, yellow, blues. I wasn't expecting it to be this intense. You will see at the end. And the brushes that I used for this particular painting, I don't like them. I bought them a long time ago. I was very young. I was not conscious, about certain things, and these are gold hair brushes, and this is something I don't support. and I don't like encouraging others to do it. I respect whichever decisions you make and whichever tools work for you as an artist, as a creative person. I respect that. I don't criticize it, but personally, I don't like to use tools that are made with animal byproducts. So I use them because I just happen to have them. Honestly, I prefer synthetic. The only thing that I find that differentiates the synthetic brushes from animal hair brushes is how much water they pack. So I don't really mind having to dip my brush in water more often. So other than that, I don't see why a good quality synthetic brush cannot beat animal hair. But to each their own. Like I said, I respect everybody's choices. And but yeah, I just don't like these brushes. Now let's talk a little bit about the paper. This is Arches watercolor paper, 140 cold pressed, which is one of my favorite. It can take a lot of water. But inks and watercolor paper can be a tricky pair. Because when you look at inks compared to paints, let's say from a molecular level, what happens is that paints like watercolor, for example, when they dry, they sit on the paper. They sit on top of the paper. Whereas inks, for the most part, and as far as I'm concerned, they act as dyes. So what they do is they bind with the paper. Okay, so the paper absorbs the pigment. And what can happen is that you may end up with a very dry looking piece, if that makes any sense. You can see that the paper is gonna show through in some areas. So it really depends on what your style is, where you are trying to do. In my case, I like the combination. I like how inks look on watercolor paper. It's just something to bear in mind. There are many different kinds of paper that perform differently with inks, and if you want to have a better idea on that, I do made a video about a red ink that I love. It's called Nikita. It's the same brand. And what I did on that video is I showed you how I like to do little swatches and flat applications on different kinds of paper. And then you can see how each paper brings up or mutes different properties from the inks. Now, in this case, just to give you an example, Blue Upon the Plains of Abraham, it tends to have a red sheen, and that completely disappeared on this paper. The paper soaked in all that red, so it only shows a very like a purplish kind of blue, but you don't really see the red sheen, and that's fine with me. And I will continue to experiment on different papers, but it's just something to bear in mind. It's always good to do small tests. The other thing I would advise you to do, because this one is it can be controversial when it comes to art, because different mediums have different properties when it comes to the light. And I found over the years that inks, sometimes they fade when they are exposed to the light. So a good test to do as well is to do a flat application and let it sit on the light for a while, and then do the same thing on a different strip of paper, and then watch the comparison. And you're gonna see that sometimes that ink fades. That's another thing to keep in mind, because it can ruin your work. You may end up with something that has nothing to do with what you had in mind. Now, with all that being said, let's just get back into the painting here, just because we're approaching the end, I think. I'm not sure. But I ended up adding a whole bunch of different elements, some things in the foreground. I added some semi-transparent clouds. I did some rocks and mountains sort of like in the foreground to add some contrast and to mute or tone down a little bit of the red, because I realized that I had too much red in the front. And also, you know, for a composition. And so yeah, that's what you're seeing me do right here. I'm just adding a little bit of elements just to make it a bit more interesting. But like I said, this was just like a test thing. This is not a piece that I am looking to sell or anything. It's just something that I made for fun, and I'm happy with it. It was a very interesting process, and I can't wait to do more with this combination. I think it has a lot of potential. And now let me tell you a little bit about what I've been doing and what I've been recording to post next on this channel. I've been doing a coloring tutorial with color pencils, because I've noticed that there's this one video I posted that a lot of people liked and commented on, so I decided, well, I can do more things like that if that's what you guys want to see. So if you're here for coloring tutorials, stay tuned, because the next video is going to be a coloring tutorial, and I think it'd be helpful for everybody. And I don't know, I also want to try and incorporate more like vlog style type of videos. It's just I haven't 100% committed to the channel, to be honest with you. This is just something that I am doing as a hobby for now. But a lot of you have been subscribing lately, so I'm thinking maybe I should invest a little bit more time. We'll see. Stay tuned. And the last thing I wanted to touch on it's that none of my videos so far have been sponsored. So this is my genuine approach with the my particular creative process. I'm very passionate about everything that has to do with art and craft and things to do as a family, from a creative perspective. So I just wanted to say that. No sponsors for now anyway. And that was it. I hope you enjoyed watching and listening to this messy mess that we did today. Stay tuned. There's gonna be a lot more coming up. And like I always say to my new subscribers, thank you and welcome. To all of you guys, thank you so much. I am very happy to have you, and I will see you next time. Bye.